One of the most influential horror movies in 1981 wasn't made by a major studio. It was actually made by just a group of friends with basically no money. This is my series exploring the most influential horror movies for every year over the past 50 years. For 1981, I chose The Evil Dead. Directed by Sam Raimi and starring his longtime friend Bruce Campbell, The Evil Dead tells the story of 5 college kids who Airbnb a remote cabin in the woods, where they accidentally unleash an ancient evil after discovering a mysterious book known as the Necronomicon. The movie was made for about $350,000 and would go on to earn roughly about $2.5 million during the initial theatrical run, and a shit ton more through the home video, and eventually becoming one of the most successful independent horror films of its era. But what makes The Evil Dead so important isn't the box office success. It's the fact that a group of inexperienced filmmakers working with a tiny budget and almost no studio support managed to create a horror film so inventive and memorable that it launched a franchise that's still producing movies more than 4 decades later. Very relative to what's going on today, with movies like Iron Lung and Obsession. But the story behind Evil Dead is almost as unbelievable as the movie itself. In the 70s, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell and several of their friends wanted to make a feature film but had almost no money. To convince investors they could do it, they created a short horror film called Within the Woods. The strategy worked. They raised enough money to shoot a feature and traveled to a remote cabin in Tennessee. Conditions were brutal. Cast and crew endured freezing temperatures, long nights, and a ton of technical problems. But they couldn't afford expensive camera equipment. Raimi and his crew came up with creative ways to move the camera, including running through the woods and carrying it on a makeshift rig. Those fast-moving point-of-view shots became one of the movie's most recognizable trademarks and helped make The Evil Dead feel completely more than anything audiences ever seen. Like I mentioned before, what really made The Evil Dead, more than 40 years later, the shots remain one of the franchise's defining trademarks. The practical effects were just as memorable. Long before CGI became commonplace, The Evil Dead relied on makeup effects, prosthetics, stop-motion animation, and fake blood, and countless homemade solutions to bring the horrifying deadites to life. The effects may look rough around the edges by today's standards, but this handmade quality gives the film a unique personality that many horror fans still love. Individually, none of the elements guarantee success, but together they created a horror experience that felt raw, unpredictable, and unlike anything audiences have seen. Finally, speaking about The Evil Dead's legacy, over the next 40 years, The Evil Dead produced The Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Ash vs. The Evil Dead Again, Evil Dead Rise, and then coming out soon is Evil Dead Burn and Evil Dead Wrath. Very few low-budget horror films ever create an entire universe. The Evil Dead did. So more than 40 years later, The Evil Dead proves that creativity is more important than a huge budget. Do you think The Evil Dead was the most important movie in 1981? Leave me a message in the comments.